Greetings from St. Perpetua Community. There's enough time these days, at least for some of us, to read most of the morning paper, even the features I seldom read, like Miss Manners. Usually, Miss Manners addresses her correspondent as gentle reader. This week, in one of her columns, however, she didn't respond to someone else's question. She asked one of her own. Of what purpose or relevance is etiquette in a time of social distancing? She makes a good point in contrasting what we might consider heroic virtues, like the current work of our medical heroes in our hospitals and critical industry workers who serve us and keep society running, compared to what she calls small virtues. These are the words and actions that most of us carry out in our daily interactions, especially with those people with whom we live and work. She says that these underlying principles of behavior, to which we may not attribute much significance, are both moral and heroic. There's a truth to that which becomes more obvious in these days and weeks when families and couples have to hunker down in confined quarters. It shouldn't surprise any of us when nerves are frayed, tempers flare, boredom makes us lethargic or irritable toward one another. These are the times that call for heroism on our parts. The annals of the lives of the saints in our Catholic tradition are filled with recorded words and deeds that seem almost inconsequential, and yet marked their path to sanctity. That path is open and available to each of us. St. Francis de Sales saw a sure yet simple path toward holiness through what he called the little virtues. They include patience, humility, gentleness, simplicity, honesty, and hospitality, lived out in your ordinary daily life of, as he called it, being who you are and being that perfectly well. Regarding patience, a virtue that so many of us feel in short supply these days, St. Francis was realistic when he said, be patient with everyone, but above all with yourself. He encouraged humility, a virtue that calls us to trust more and more in God and God's love for us, especially in moments when life seems uncertain and out of our control, as it does during this time of the pandemic we're facing. Humility asks us to become more and more like our God, to strive always to be bigger, more generous, more compassionate and merciful, and more other-centered. So this wise teacher and guide encourages the practice of the best virtues, not those which are most highly esteemed, the most excellent, not the most visible, the truest, not the most conspicuous. We know that the most heroic action expected of the majority of us is to stay at home, observe the guidelines of hand washing and face mask wearing, and to pray daily for those whose lives were lost, those who are dying, for the sick and those who care for them, and for an end to the coronavirus. That's our simple path to holiness. As St. Francis de Sales assures us, the opportunity for doing great things does not come often, but at every moment we can do little ones with great love. May you live heroically in these challenging times.